All right, what is up? What is going on, everybody? Just making sure everything is working. We got Freon, Mike, Mark. What is up, guys? D Tolls. Let me hit live on Instagram, see if we get any comments from there. I do want to give a quick shout out to our channel members. We have almost 20, and that is pretty nuts to me. Gary Carnell, D Tolls, B1062, True Results, Brian Harris, MA100, Quengas Kong, Jimmy Wang, HVAC Jedi, Luis, uh, Patriotic American, Tyus Rome, Fendi Main, Asif, Fitbit, Chris, and the newest one is Yee Yee. Hope I'm saying that right. Appreciate everybody. Let me make sure everything's working. And I was gonna restructure that whole membership thing, but it's super cheap. You guys can join for like, not that you have to, but it's at like $2 or something like that, and you get early access to videos and stuff like that. So a lot of times I'm uploading some drafts before I have to re-edit them or before I even add the ads to them, because I do have sponsors, and the members will see it first if that's what they want to, that's a perk there, but not necessary. Appreciate everybody that tunes in every week to watch the videos regardless, and the live streams, which I'm debating if to do more of, so we'll see how it goes. What is up, everybody? What's up, Instagram? What is up, YouTube? You guys got what do you call it, power not outages, but it looks like you might have getting rain. Oh, let me fix this. Oh man, what's going on here? Gaining rain as we speak. Then I have it up here. I don't know. Everything's. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Let's see. Double. There we go. I was on the wrong setting. Getting rain as we speak. All day today, where I'm at in Texas, we are on a flood watch, but it was like super sunny, and then a few minutes later it would rain like crazy, and then like 5 minutes later it'd be super sunny again, and then like an hour later rain again. It was just continuous this whole weekend. Super scattered showers. So nothing crazy, but our week is looking to have like a flood watch. We're right in the middle to where the people by the coast get it the worst. We get very little. Sometimes we get floods, but not hasn't happened in a while. And then further out, they get the a lot of the heavy winds and rain and stuff too. So we're right in that sweet spot. So hopefully nothing happens here. Plus, we got our new guy starting this week. Hopefully, we don't scare him off with some harsh weather. Oh, that was the same thing with us. We had a drought. We didn't have any rain or anything in the beginning of the year, which we normally do. And now we got it like in what, May, and then now we're in hurricane season. So it's nice to see the water. Just, please don't mess with any of the projects I have going on. How long does it take to become efficient in this trade? HVAC Slim says a lifetime. HVAC Slim is doing a lot of good stuff with not only his content, but starting his own business and kind of, just seeing what he has going on is pretty cool. For me personally, what I always tell people, because I was just thinking about it. Like I said, we hired somebody, so they're starting out this week. and they're hired as a helper. I was talking to some guys that were more experienced, trying to see what we can do for pay what they wanted to be paid and all that, which is a little difficult because everybody, even on the helper side, apprentice, you hear so many different numbers, and trying to gauge, like, are they worth that? I know they think they are themselves. Nothing against that. Like, try to get what you can, but realistically, it's like, what can we afford to pay you? And it has to make sense, right? So there's guys that I've talked to doing the podcast and everything that they get into it, and they're out running calls within months or a year. Some of them say that it takes them a couple years to get comfortable. I was out running calls immediately. I was out running calls immediately, but I had a different situation. I had to. There was no way around it. When I got really comfortable, because I didn't take it serious, it took a good 6 to 8 years, in my opinion. I've heard the same from others that maybe they get thrown into it and then, it takes them 5, 6 years to get comfortable. And then, you know, that's when you're like, I'll take anything. I'll take the hardest call. I'm good. Being efficient is like, with experience, what tools you need, how to, work with what you got, take the crappiest call, make it the best. Like leaving it better than you found it, that type of deal. When you get like nasty calls or a maintenance, you clean them up, you do really well. Because a new guy might try to get in and out. A lazy tech might try to get in and out. But are you taking the time to be better, more efficient, and take pride in your work, that kind of stuff? For me, like I said, it took me solid 6 years to flip that switch or feel like I was comfortable, efficient, and, ready for whatever, basically. So that's just my experience. I feel really, the first few years, I felt really like trying to keep up, trying to catch up, trying to learn what I could, make mistakes, don't do that again, that type of deal. So yeah, learning on your own time is a big deal too. So learn on your own time. If you can do that, it will become easier. If you only work HVAC 8 to 5, then it takes longer. So yes. So even though, in my experience, and it's different for everybody. So if you start on installs, you get to learn kind of how to put the equipment together, how it works, what it's supposed to do, how it runs normally. You get a little bit of that too if you start on maintenance. But even on maintenance, I go to maintenance. I was doing maintenance for, forever, up until recently. We kind of have guys that do that now. But they call you for maintenance, or they schedule it, or for me, it's commercial, every 6 months. They don't tell you in between that something broke. You get there and you're basically having to do service on maintenance. That happens a lot too. So on installs, you get more of like just starting it up and seeing how it works and all that. And, you know, I didn't like to be embarrassed in front of the customer, or telling a customer I don't know, or I can't figure it out, or I can't fix it. So that's where, like, yes, after school, I was looking up manuals. I was trying to make sure that I knew everything about every little part, searching all these things and reading up as much as I could. And I've talked about it recently with some people. I know I talked about it with somebody, and then my guest that's going to be on the podcast this week. We kept, or I kept, and they also mentioned that they did the same thing. Textbooks and literature on the van for a few years, and some of them are new, so they still have it on their van. I took it out halfway in my career, so I had literature. I would stock up on all the manuals, everything that we worked on, and I would keep it on the van and just read it in my downtime, or take it home. Like I said, manuals, take them home, read them here. It's a little easier now because you can do just a quick search on your phone, pull up a manual, and obviously YouTube. If you're a social media person, I think TikTok has a pretty good search engine. Instagram is a little bit harder to find the exact content you want, but there's ways to find it if you want to look up either parts, how a refrigeration cycle works, how to install this, what this does. It's very easy. So many resources now to learn more, right? So take advantage of that, because that's what separated me in the beginning, because I was having to compete with a lot of older guys who didn't think I could do anything, right? I had to show them that I knew what I was doing. I went to trade school, so that helped me, but to get ahead is like all that extra work that you put in and learning more, because they're going to be stubborn that it has to be this way or that way or whatever. And if it doesn't work, they're going to sell a new equipment. But you're the one that's like, no, this TXV is doing this. We need to do that. Check superheat, do all the right practices and all that kind of stuff, because you did your research. You looked up everything that you could, and you kind of know how that works. And then once you get the hang of like refrigeration cycle, all the components, you can kind of adapt and manipulate like certain things. Like there's certain stuff that people won't touch because it's just like they just add charge or find a leak, replace something here and there. Their parts changing, and that's it. But they don't go into further inspections on, like I said, superheat or subcool restrictions or anything else. Compressors, sometimes they fail, but they're still pumping. Like there's little things that you need to pick up on, and that comes with experience. And I can get a customer by sometimes doing these little things because I understand how refrigeration works, the cycle, the refrigerant, saturation temperatures, all that kind of stuff. That's what helps you too, to kind of, I don't want to say MacGyver, but try to get them by. And then you can do other things, and you learn little tricks, right? Like the cardboard over the fan motor that you can't get that day, but you want to cover it so that it's not sucking up air through there, and the other fans can still do the work, whether it's on a condenser, but it has to be multiple fans, right? Like a condenser, evaporator on a walk-in box. Those are little tips and tricks that you figure out or learn in the field. Let me back up a little bit here. Starting in 2 weeks, you're 2 weeks in now. That's awesome. Just change a TXV. I had a guy. Yeah, what's up, guys? And I bring up the same stories over and over because they stand out so much. So we've had second opinions, or I go after companies. I just did it again this past week, and it's just like I said, the dumbest things. And it's dumb to me because I feel like they should know a little bit more than the basics. If you're out there running service, right, you've got to know how a system works, what it does, the temperatures, and all these little things. So whenever I'm with any of our new guys, and my brother was that for a while, and I still give him like pointers, but like the new guys that we have now that have been here a year, the guy that we just hired, those are the guys that I'm trying to give these little like tips to, because I don't want them to be like all these other companies that I have to go behind. So I had one that was stubborn. It's the TXV. I kept telling the customer it's a bad walk-in. The walk-in box had a bad door, warped to hell, and a lot of other factors, because it's an outside box, so it's outside the building, but it's attached to the building, right? So it's on the outside wall, and it's technically in. You have to go inside the building to get into the walk-in box, but all of it is outside, like all the other walls. So I kept telling him, I was like, you have a lot of heat load, because there's gaps even where the box attaches to the building. I'm like, there is a little bit of a gap, and you're getting a little bit of that factoring in, and then your door's messed up. So like all the heat coming in there from those little creases, the door being warped, the back room, you guys never want to fix the AC. Like it's hot back here. That is why it's only cooling. And I got them by. I think I had to flood the system or something to get them by to at least under 10. Like it was maintaining 8 to 10 when I left. Someone else went, no, you need the TXV, you need the solenoid, you need all this stuff. So, they let him do it. Then I got begged to come back because it was stuck at 20 degrees now. So this is a walk-in freezer, right? I was like, when I left, it was 8 to 10. Had a little bit of ice. We can uh, combat that with more defrost times. There's like little things we can do, right? Until you want to fix the door. But yeah, there's other guys that'll throw in all the parts. The TXV, like I said, the solenoid. He left, and then I came in. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do what I did to the last TXV that was in there that was working. I'm pretty sure I had to flood the system or something like that to get it to work, or maybe I had to starve it. I can't remember what it was exactly, or I probably had to starve it to make it frost a little bit to kind of get it colder and this and that. So I was like, I need to get my superheat down. I need to get my superheat between 6 to 8 so that your evaporator is working properly and kind of offsets all the other issues you have. It's just never going to get to 0 or under because of those other issues. So had to go behind them, fix that. Then they finally let us fix a door and it is working perfect now. Didn't need all that. The medium is constantly changing. That's true. What is up? One man HVAC. Plain old work ethics, and that is something you cannot teach. You can give advice, you can give them a nudge, you can give them a pep talk, a push, tell them all the right things, and it's up to them if they're going to put in the work ethic. Like I said earlier, or the other week, I don't want to bash anybody, but we lost a guy because he wanted to move up north to make more money. Obviously, the cost of living is different. I'm assuming he's going to be traveling up and traveling down, so maybe it doesn't affect him as much. But yeah, I think somebody else mentioned you get paid you get paid based on performance, and it's like he performed really well. We were getting there. We gave him a raise within a couple months, honestly, within 3 months, and got him to where he felt comfortable, but he wanted more. And it's like, we gotta pace it because I got to see what you can do. There's a lot of things that go into it. And work ethic was one of those concerns of mine with that particular individual. Not that he couldn't do it. He was great. He MacGyvered a lot of stuff, did a lot of custom work for us with doors and stuff like that, which that's not easy to get a guy to do, right? But a little bit, I guess, left to be desired on the work ethic part. Complaining, you know, thinking he was getting treated a certain way, and it's like, all of our guys do hot side refrigeration and AC. It's a requirement. I talked to the guy that we just hired. To me, it's in their best interest as well if they can learn more skills. If they stay, they get paid more. If they leave to another company, guess what? They're going to love that you can do more than one thing. So I think it's a benefit. Mike, I had a nightmare of an ice machine install on Friday. Something I've never experienced before. Well, you got to explain that one. Never. I don't know. For us personally, we tried to never, and I've tried to do it, and then my dad talks me out of it a couple times. Like I don't want to do anything major on a Friday because no matter what, it's gonna go wrong. You're gonna get called back. You're gonna have to work the weekend or stay late on Friday. It's just how it works. What is up, Carlos? First job, 2.5 hours away, Hoshizaki with a remote condenser. Customer supplied equipment. Those are always iffy too, man. Head is charged. Remote is charged. Braza line set in. Brand new line 3/8. Ooh, had pinhole pinholes in it. Tried to had had to get some off my van, Hunter. Yeah, it's hot, man. Like those are difficult. Dealing with leaks, yeah. Probably got a good deal on it. Where were the leaks? Was it in the line set connecting the two, or was it like actually in the system? A senior tech once told me read service. Oh yeah, service bulletins. You learn a lot, and a lot of people don't. Or that's what separates a good tech from a lazy tech, or like a really good tech from a lazy tech. Like read up as much as you can. So service bulletins, you learn a lot. Um, I always forget about that one, but I look at those too. And even if you just skim through them to see what's going on and what they want you to do, or like procedures, and I don't know, a lot of stuff gets put in those bulletins, and you can learn from. I've learned a lot from them too. So it's always good to go through those. And I get emails all the time for different things, and I try to skim through them, see if there's anything I need to know. But yeah, Mark says read the service bulletins, install service the manuals for that on your off time. Kept it in the bathroom and did double duty while sitting there. Yeah, okay. That now I understand this comment. Nowadays people play on their phone when they're on the toilet. So different times, yes. People used to read newspapers or manuals. Now they're just on social media or YouTube. Isn't that Chinese copper? If it's brand new, nope, a brand. Trying to forget the day. Don't remember the name. Uh, what was I gonna say? I've run into poor quality copper before. Super thin, and it tends to be like the brand sometimes of the equipment, because you'll see those leaks over and over. I've seen quite a bit on Goodman split systems, right? The condensers leaking, obviously evaporators leaking, but that's a different story. For me, it was always Daikin. I never liked those condensers on certain models on RTUs. I forget the model, but it's like the ones with the blue gray panels. Every single one that I've come across has leaked. All the newer models that we also put in for the past couple of years with the beige color panels, those have been perfect. I've never had issues with those. Every now and then a little wiring issue or pressure control, but that's about it. You could do the manual J and all that. You can do heat load calculations. There's plenty of people that do it and help others, either size equipment for new stuff or double check that they have the right equipment in there. Uh, for me, like kitchens, that is a big deal, is doing these heat load calculations. And if you can do it pretty simple, or you know how to do it quickly, you can offer it as a business. I would totally do that. I've done it. I can do it by hand. I'm looking to get into it again for like the software and all that. And I need to, because I do very quick, not super accurate ones, but I'm gonna need to for certain customers because they are just. I feel like they've changed things, or they're fitting this stuff into a space that never was meant for like a cooking equipment, and we're having issues at a few places. But like one of the customers that I went to, because there was a company that could not fix a make line. I don't know what they told them. I don't know if they said it was like no good anymore. I don't know why I got called out. And it's for a customer that I do maintenance for really only, or now I really only do maintenance because they have somebody else that does the repairs that's cheaper and all that jazz. So that's the company that also tried to say that I installed the wrong compressor at another location. So now I'm getting called behind them. So I went out to a make line cooler and it was overcharged. The condenser was a little damaged, so I had to straighten it out. And I cleaned it because where the condenser, like it's a make line cooler, right? So it's a small reach in. Well, it's really long. So there's a cabinet underneath. There's a rail on top. If you ever go into a pizza shop or anything like that, it's where they have the condiments and they kind of make the pizzas and all that kind of stuff. They store everything underneath, all the sauces and everything. So like it's one compressor, but it feeds several evaporators because there's different sections. And I don't like them because if it's one compressor, it's going to throw everything off, and you have to make sure each one is working properly for the other one to work. So it can get confusing. I've tried to tell my guys little things to look for here and there and how to know if it's working or not working and where to kind of focus. So on that one, they said the bottom wasn't working. I was like, okay, let me check it out. So I had to turn off the top section because there's two controllers. So I can focus on the one that I know is not working whatsoever. So I turned off the top, ran the bottom. You can run them separate. It's the same compressor. And I was realizing that it kept cutting out at like 47, 45. I was like, hey guys, I turned it all the way. You need a new temp controller. I don't know why the other company didn't tell you that, but let me fix that. So I fixed that, right? Then I ran it, had to calibrate it a little bit, but it worked fine. Then I tried to run the top and run it together, had that high head pressure. I was like, that's kind of weird. So straighten out the coil, the fins on the coil. And as I did that, there was like dirt trapped in there that has not been able to be washed out because it's blocked off. So we straightened those out, cleaned out the coil, still getting high head pressure. I had to take a little bit out. Once I got it out, everything went to temp and everything worked fine. So yeah, like in that kitchen is also very hot. I saw that they put a mini split right by the counter to cool off the employees. And I was like, if we just got a proper heat load in here, calculation, do our everything that we need for the windows because I have a massive windows at this place and it's hot right now. So massive windows. I don't think they have enough capacity in there. Their exhaust, I think we had told them it's a little bit undersized, stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff goes or gets thrown together. So by all means, I want to get back into it too, is doing that for this particular customer because some of the places they have it doesn't seem that it's designed right, and you see that more often than not. So they got this little mini split, and I can see that it's been running nonstop, and it is already all nasty just by looking at it. I can imagine if I actually opened it. But that was the other company's solution, is just to put a mini split there, and it didn't really. Like, it's still hot in there. I know the ACs are not working properly. Ooh, it went through a PVC chase. Yeah, you got to be careful with quotes. We do a lot of quotes, and it's going to cost you a lot more for me because I got to think of everything that can go bad and make sure it's covered. Now, we try to keep it to something specific, unless it's a whole change out, right? Something specific. We're fixing this. Like, we need to do this before we can check anything else. Sometimes you have to go through that, especially if you weren't the one that, or it went down before you even got there. Like, it needs a new compressor. Okay, I got to put a new compressor, make sure everything else looks good, and then run it to see if anything else is wrong, right? I've had that issue where I put a compressor in or something like that, and then a temp control doesn't work or something, right? So it's like, okay, we need to fix that, or a sensor or something like that. So try to tell them it's for something specific, and then you're also trying to quote for like a longer day or a little bit extra materials just in case. And we have to go that route a lot because in commercial, they're going to ask for that. I would rather do time and material. Just let me, you know, fix it, see how long it takes, and that's the cheapest route. But we got to do quotes. Ooh, total drive 5.5 hours. It's all good. If we had supplied materials, then we would be on the hook. But he supplied them. So anytime a customer does that to me, it's not guaranteed. It messes up the like warranty is not the same. None of that. So we try to warn them about the issues if they supply it. And then we also tell them, because we do have commercial accounts that are really good about it. They'll get the right equipment. They kind of have somebody that knows what we need and understands because they've done a little bit of HVAC. So we have one that is like that. And it's a little bit different. Like, we can warranty like any callbacks that we have, but anything wrong with the system, because we have a lot of walk-in boxes with boards and all that. I showed one recently that got iced over. I was like, if anything happens to that, I can do the warranty work, or I can diagnose it for you. You're the one that has to deal with getting it covered, right? So, like that customer in particular, when a motor gives out and like an ECM, a board, or anything like that on something new that they supplied, I will go diagnose it. I would tell them what's wrong with it, and then they're responsible for getting a new one sent over. I'll swap it out, hand it to them, and they send it back, and they deal with that. Which in the beginning, but I mean, we're gonna have to deal with it now too. Is like, it actually was beneficial for us for them to do that because we had no investment or money held up when we were doing a lot of change outs or new equipment, because I mean, at the time we didn't have money to be doing that. Like, if we had a big project, we had to turn down other work or other projects because we were supplying the equipment, and that was all our money tied up, or we were trying to play it safe. So if the customer supplies it with like that one that I mentioned, it's not really a bad thing. I know sometimes, because we're taught, especially like me in trade school, the markup is part of your business. And yes, it definitely is. That is something that you need to charge for. You're going to a supply house that should only sell to licensed contractors. I know they sell to certain restaurant chains and all that, but you get a better price versus like a homeowner or customer that usually doesn't even, they're not allowed to buy, but I know it happens. But you should get a better price because you're able to mark it up. So you're not trying to rip them off, right? But also, I mean, it just happens like that in commercial. Residential is totally different. I would never, if I did residential, I would never allow a homeowner to supply anything. And even now, every now and then I do turn away stuff because I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not installing anything used that you supplied. I'm not installing anything, um, I don't know, anything sketchy, because we do run into that sometimes. So you gotta pick and choose. And there's only like one or two customers that will do that for. because I have an actual like HVAC guy that kind of knows when we tell him what to order to make sure he gets everything. Cable, I've helped install an RTU and swapped out a fan motor so far. I haven't touched any of the wiring yet. Mainly minor mechanical issues and running a drain line. Well, it's a good experience. I mean, 2 weeks in. So we're going to see how our helper does, our apprentice. And when we were hiring, I was just telling him, I was like, we mostly need help on maintenance, but you're going to ride with somebody that's going to do service and maintenance, because he's going to ride with our one of our technicians that does that, and make sure that he's like getting it or understands a little bit of it, is comfortable with it, kind of start letting him see things and then letting him get hands on some stuff. And the goal with a helper, but he's a little more advanced in my opinion because he's done construction. Nothing crazy, but he's done a little bit of it. So our expectations is like, hey, come try it out, get the hang of it. We would love to give you like maintenance calls to start with, and you can get like a van and do it on your own, because then it frees up, for one, it frees up me, it frees up our junior tech, I guess you can say, who's been here a year and is already doing service. Because I'm typically, me and him are having to juggle a lot of the maintenance. My brother comes in and does a lot of it too. So we can kind of free up the technicians that need to go do service. That's what I'm looking for right now. So we hired one, debating if to get another guy. And, that's kind of how we're building out. And we have like 6 vehicles. So hopefully that'll be 7. And then we can build, hopefully, I'm thinking 8. And then we'll see where we're at. What is up, Nasty? Goodman replacement condenser coil leaking right out the box. Oh yeah, Streamline is a major one. Damn. Okay, so let's see. I'll kind of read the comments that are right after this one. Victor, have you heard that they're coming back with 410A equipment? I would love to be informed a little more on this, because maybe it's a rumor, because I was at the supply house minding my own business. I think I went to pick up a warranty part or something. So I was just waiting there so they could do all the paperwork and everything. And it was, I think, at the end of the day, so it was dead. And there's this other guy, this other technician there, talking to one of the main like sales guy there. That's behind the counter, and the technician was saying, "Oh, they're gonna bring back 410A and this and that." And the guy was like, "What?" and this and that. So like, I know everybody there, so I was just like trying not to, you know, look up. I was just trying to get my stuff and get out. And he's like, "Yo, Adrian, did you hear that? Have you heard about that?" And I was like, from what I understand, I don't think they're bringing anything back. I think it's just an extension, like what Mark said. Um, that's what I've heard. But this guy was adamant that he thought they were going to start making 410A equipment again. I was like, you have to think about it. Like, manufacturers have already, because they were forced to do it now, like phase it out. They put so much money into the next like lineup. Why would they spend money on something older that they're going to have to phase out again? So I get it. I wish we could. I don't really have an issue. We deal with R32 more than anything. I haven't really dealt with R454B, but like from what I understand, it's just like, hey, you're okay to put it in, or it's whatever's left in stock, or if you can get it or you have it, there's no penalty, there's no fine, and you can do it a little bit longer. But I was trying to tell them, I was like if you think about it, why would they, like, what incentive or what, because they're all about making money. You guys already know that. What incentive or what logic is it for them to make 410A again? Like the equipment. They want you to buy the new stuff. They already made the new stuff. You need to buy it. They probably cost more, and there's sensors and there's extra things that they tag onto it. They want you to buy that stuff. I don't see 410A ever making a comeback, or it's just, it's not going to happen. Yeah, they have too much money on the A2L stuff. Oh yes, this is what it was, because I always forget this point. It's to help because of the supermarket industry, and it's not particular to 410A. It's an A2L thing. They are trying to buy time, because if you think about it, the bigger the equipment is, that's always the hardest one, or hardest ones to phase out and replace, because they're still, supermarkets are like a big part of refrigeration, and that's, yeah, nothing to do with 410. It's an A2L thing, because they are helping supermarkets out for the timeline, because that is like a big thing, is replacing all that stuff for them. And you can imagine, which is why I never got into it. So for your everyday homeowner residential, like, nothing's going to change. Yeah, overseas, they've been using R32 for years. Yeah, we're so behind. Appreciate it, Waylon. Very good real life experience. I do similar work. What you do, about to buy Knipex, thinking of getting 10-inch Cobra comfort grip, 10-inch pliers, 7-inch pliers, pliers wrench. Do you think that's good sizes? That's all I need, or what? Uh, yes. I know most of them are like 7 inches. Those are the ones that I tend to put in my bag, and then you can have like a 10-inch to uh like pair it with. I've even done the mini ones, and those come in handy. But like, I mean, that's just when you're trying to buy more tools and you're just trying to find a reason to buy some. Yes. So 10-inch Cobras, 10-inch pliers wrench, 7-inch. I think that's a good start. I have started going into Knipex, so I'm a big fan of their wire strippers. So I have the Forge wire strippers, which is like their all-in-one. It does have a wide, like, linesman type plier end that I particularly don't like on wire strippers. So that's why I don't use it as much. I have the Knipex uh, electrical installation, I believe it's called. We can look them up, because they have so many tools. So I have the electrical installation wire stripper pliers, and then I have the pliers wrench. I think I have the 7-inch, but in my install bag, I do have the 10-inch, I believe. But I don't use them as much. But they all cut clean and very nice. And I've tried the Klein. I don't like them as much as far as like the pliers wrench. So I'm going back. I used to have Knipex. Freaking lost them. So now I'm going back to Knipex. Let's see if I can find them. So for, let's see if this works. So for wire strippers, I really enjoyed these because you get the needle nose at the end, you get the wire stripper. It also does have a crimper in between, in the middle, and obviously the cross cut. Those have been great. I know not a lot of people like when it's this style crimper. They want a dedicated crimper, all that. This is a great multi tool, and the pliers wrench. I know I got the set of them. Well, they got a 12-inch too. Yeah, no, you're fine with the. It's a 7 and the 10. Those are the most common. I do have the 5 as well. They're already phasing out 32 in Europe. No, you're good. Like I said, those sizes, like what that list you had there is great. Um, I don't like to have a lot of Cobras either, so I have more pliers, wrenches, and like one Cobra as well. Because we tend to use like adjustable wrenches or pliers wrenches on TXVs and valves and different things and caps. So that's what I have more of. I'll try to have two in my bag, or I'll have a pliers wrench and an adjustable wrench because I do like that, and I get away with that. I'll just have one of each, and then I'll have a Cobra as well. But the bigger tools, so like the 10-inch, anything bigger, I throw that in a bigger bag because I have an install bag that has like everything you can think of, which is like I said, the bigger wrenches, like snips, dedicated nut drivers, like hollow nut drivers. All that is in that bag, which I don't know if I'm gonna end up using anymore because I'm not gonna be doing everything. Like I'm doing a lot of service and then helping out the guys, and probably we'll see how tomorrow goes, or this week. Because like I said, then you guys gonna start with our junior tech. He's gonna show him what he knows because he's already done a lot. But I'll probably be also taking him with me to do work, teaching him how to do maintenance between me and the junior tech, and supervising a lot. And when we do installs, I want to let the guys do as much as they can so they can learn how to do, the stuff that or stuff the way that we're used to doing it. So I will go and I help with the line sets, but I let them wire, I let them braze. If they have a problem, I see what they suggest, and then I'll step in if I can kind of direct them in a better, put them in a better position if they get stuck. So it's very different for me, but I'm heavily downsizing, my personal tools. Sucks for the customer who spent money on new equipment, and then we change the refrigerant again. Yep. Business side and tech side are two different worlds. Yes. So while, because I've heard about it, you know, here and there, right? There's a lot of social media right now. There's a lot of influencers. There's a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of Instagram profiles, TikTok, a lot of people to watch. And I know I've talked about it with Jake on HVAC nights. I know I've talked about it with other guys. Like it's a little scary because you hear the same thing over and over. Like start a business. You're making a lot of money. You can make that for yourself. Open a business. Do this. Do that. It's simple. It's easy. You make a lot of money. It is not. I encourage anybody that wants to do it or wants to try it, to do it. You have to be ready to be in it 24/7 There's going to be a stress on you 24/7. Um, you got to manage people if you ever hire even a helper. You got to make sure they get paid. You got to make sure you have enough work for you and anybody else that you have. You got to chase down payments, deal with happy customers and pissed off customers. You got to see how you charge, make sure you cover your expenses. Gas right now, unexpected, uh, rise in price the way it's happened recently. These are things you have to be thinking of, or, you run into problems like this. And not that it's easy to start. It's just difficult to maintain. It's difficult to grow. It's people don't, I know people don't talk about it as much, but like more businesses fail than succeed. Now, if you have the right mindset going in, you're humble, you're going to start from the bottom. You can, you're self-aware, all that kind of stuff. And you don't quit at the first hurdle, obstacle, then you'll be fine. Like this trade and this business, you can do well. I just don't like when like I talk to guys and it's like, well, they want to be picky. I was like, you can't be picky. Like we did a lot of mom and pop shops, a lot of low level stuff, didn't get paid all the time, lost a lot of jobs that we thought we had secured. And you go to plan B, or you go to backup, or you just hustle. You go out there and you get more work. That's what you got to do. And it's not for everybody. So two different worlds. So you got to learn as much as you can as a tech, and then you got to learn as much as you can as a business owner, and make sure you have all the right things in place. And it's very difficult. So you're never going to be able to do both the best. So right now, like me, I'm taking myself out a little bit, trusting our guys, teaching them what I can, helping them when I can. And like I mentioned earlier, we're hiring so that I can, I'm still doing service. Like I said earlier, I'm pulling myself out, or I'm getting a helper to do maintenance, so me and the junior tech don't have to do them as much, because we are more valuable on service or anything else, like major, because we have so much calls. We have so many, we're backed up, and we have a senior tech, and we have my brother, like we have other guys, but the maintenance always kills us. And I don't want to let go of the maintenance. I actually want to grow the maintenance to everybody that we work with, because it is easy, reoccurring revenue, right? That's money that we can get. And as long as you do a good job, you do everything that, you follow all the steps, you clean the best that you can, you take your time, and you take pride in that maintenance, the customer's happy, and they're going to keep paying you over and over and over for that contract. So I want to grow that, but I need to get us out more. Then I'm going to need somebody to do more service so that I can get even further out, so I can deal with our existing customers, deal with new customers, um, be on time with like quoting and responding, because sometimes I take a while to respond, and it's like, hey, we needed you here yesterday. I was like, well, I couldn't answer the phone. I couldn't answer the email because I was out running calls. So there's a lot that goes into it. And it if my dad didn't start the business, I'm straight up honest, I don't know if I would have started it, or maybe I probably would have waited a very long time to start it. It is very difficult. And honestly, if I was doing it over again and I did start a business, I'd probably just work for myself and do my own thing. I hear nothing good about ultra low NOx. This is the third full ice machine system I have done in the last 2 months. Oh, okay. So you've done this work before. You just had a bad apple here. Warranty and parts and refrigerant is still there, just up to the contractors not to make false statements on being illegal. We've done warranty work for plenty of people. It's something that I can do. We just don't do much of it now because of the way they are to pay out, right? So like there's little things, but when we were slow, we did a lot of warranty work, and it's a good thing to do when you're like I need another source of income, right? Well, get into warranty, get into I know there's home warranty stuff for residential, but I do it for or I used to do it for like refrigeration, uh ice machines. I used to do it for Scotsman. I think we used to do something for Manitowoc, but Scotsman for sure. What was the other one that I did one a couple of years ago? Blue Air, I believe. We did warranty work for them for a while. So it's there if you need it. Knipex. Jake is a big believer on that one. He stands by the ES, but I don't have them personally, so I can't tell you. It is a cool plier. I might have to add that to my list. I want to get maybe that one and like the I want to say it's a twin grip. Those are the ones that I kind of would like to try out. I don't know if I need them, but I would like to try them out. Yeah, if you wanna pace yourself, I've heard of it a couple different ways, right? Get into install or maintenance, and obviously for residential, that's the easiest way to go. Build that up or get comfortable, and then move into service or move on to commercial. That's usually the route a lot of people go to. Problem is people read headlines and assume what they want without reading the whole story. Yeah, I have kids that no experience, expect like mid 20s or like a couple years, and it's like, yeah, okay, here you got to go a little bit under that, and then you go up there with a raise or whatever it is. And if you have nothing, you're out of high school, nothing, you're gonna go. We don't do minimum wage, right? We usually try to go well above that, but you're not getting anywhere near 20 if you're 18, straight out of high school. Uh, there's some that don't even have their license, their driver's license, and they're and there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to have your expectations. Um, you're gonna get there, and that's what I try to tell everybody that has ever worked for us, that has inquired about working here. I was like, you're gonna get there. Like, we're not a company that does small, like under $1, like 50 cent raises, $1 raises. We don't typically do that. We start you where we think we should, and you're gonna get a big bump if you're performing well, if you're learning, if you can do something on your own. The best thing is when they can take a van and run their own calls, and I just have to give them calls and check in with them, and then they're a good worker. Or maintenance. That's a big one for us. Like I said, go out and knock out all the maintenance that I have. Next month I'm gonna have 20 probably more now, but I'm gonna have 20 maintenance calls on the board. Can I send you to knock those out? Then the next month I'm gonna have another 24, I believe. Can I send you to knock those out? Because it takes a toll on me to try to get to all of them. So I mean, it's just expectations. I have my girlfriend is a teacher, and she says a lot of her kids make minimum wage. Here, minimum wage is $7. You can't come into the trades expecting to make 20. That doesn't work like that. You get paid on performance. You get raises on performance. And of course, if you are somebody that I cannot let go, we can discuss, what you want to get paid. Y'all carry 422, 22, 422, D, 407, 410, 134, 32, and 454. I carry 404A, 134A, 407C. Um, for I think one customer, we have 427A. What was the other one? And 32? Oh, 448A. I lost count already. Yeah, 7-inch and 10-inch are the go-to. Not sold on the Knipex strippers. What do you use? I was using the Klein before. I've used other ones. I can't go back to any other one. So I'll use the Klein if I have to, but I've enjoyed using Knipex. Milwaukee is okay. There's nothing wrong with the Milwaukee ones, but I like the Klein and I like the Knipex now. What electronic? Oh yeah, the pliers. I'm upset I didn't get sooner. What Marco? What electronic leak detector and micron gauge do you prefer? Those tools are always a headache to find good ones at work. Yes. So micron gauge, I feel like there's like something to nitpick on every brand. Personally, I don't have it yet, but I've heard really good things about CPS products. So they have CPS products, branded micron gauges, and I think now they have Black Max, which is the same company, Black Max branded micron gauges. I've heard really good things about them. So that is the next one that I want to try. The only one that's been consistent and has all the features that I want is JB. Field piece is nice, but I think it's way too big, and every now and then there was one time it acted up on me. But what's the other one? I had the micro blue vac. Didn't like it. It worked fine, but it went through batteries like crazy. So like, what's the use? What was the other one? The Hilmer one. It's fine for a basic micron gauge, but it doesn't have the wireless or anything else to it, and I really use that quite a bit because I'll set up the vacuum and I'll walk away and do something else, go to the van or whatever. So for me, the JB has been simple, the simplest to use, hasn't acted up yet. It gives you, if you use the app, it gives you the reading above atmosphere, so you know where exactly you're at. If it's like 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, and you're seeing it drop and drop and drop, and it finally gets into range, um, you'll see it on the screen itself, but like on your phone, you can see exactly where you're at. So that's just a personal one. I've used a few different ones. I used to have the Subco one, but that one is like super old school. Um, but yeah, I'm using the JB. I like that one, and I will get the CPS one at some point. Leak detector is a whole different story. The the one that I can recommend that just works, but it doesn't. All leak detectors for me personally have been finicky. Only one, for me at least, has not given me issues, which is the Inficon Stratus. So that is my main one right now. I've never had an issue with it. It's about $1,000. So like that is always what people don't like. It's what I didn't like about it, but I finally gave into it, and it's been great. And I like that it has the parts per million on it. You can really tell where your leak is. all that kind of stuff. It works. They are at some point, I don't know when, I haven't talked to them. At some point they are going to upgrade it, at least for the, I think, a little bit of the look of it, but it's mostly for like the USB-C charging. And I know they're adding like wireless capabilities to a lot of their stuff, but I don't know if you need it on a leak detector. I know Fieldpiece, their new one does that. But Stratus for me has been the best. Budget wise, Hillmore is the one that I always use. The Hillmore infrared leak detector. Even their heated diode one was pretty good. I've used both. And those are the ones that I always go back to. Fieldpiece is the one that acted up on me a little bit. And I know they have a new one for A2Ls and uh, like propane based refrigerants. I've never tried it. The Inficon, the only thing is I do have to buy a sensor for R290 if I want to use it to do that, because I do that kind of work too. But I think at this point I'll just buy the sensor and use one. But yeah, so the Stratus for the leak detector for me. Hillmore is usually the backup choice that I tell people if you want to spend like under 500 bucks, or like right around there. You want to spend half the price, get Hillmore. You want to invest, I like the Inficon Stratus. Their whole lineup is going to get an upgrade. Like I said, USB-C charging and whatnot, even on their other models. So I just don't know when that's coming out. Recently got the SPMC, but I'm looking for a side pouch that will fit a meter and allow me to pull it for quick service. I'll have an answer for you next week. I just ordered that exact pouch, the MPM Evo, and I'm hoping that it does the same thing for me. So I'm not running the SPMC anymore. I'm running the SPLD, which is like the same exact thing, just a little bit deeper. So I want to configure it to where I have the meter and I'm able to pull it off and have a couple of tools on there, kind of like how you're talking about. So I will have it midweek. I'll try it out. If I like it, then I'll keep it on there. I'm hoping that it fits, but I have the SPMC in my cabinet, so I'll try it out on that one too, and I'll let you know. So the cool thing with the SPMC, the SPLD, and there's a couple others that do that, is I'm hoping. I haven't really looked into it. I know there's probably people on YouTube that have done it. I'm hoping a lot of the Evo stuff we can use and build out, these little things, because I had the same idea. I was like, I can have it there in the back seat, and then if I just need to go check like a thermostat or something, I'll just pull that pouch out and it'll have like the meter and stuff. So yeah, we'll see. I had thought of that, and if it didn't work, I was gonna maybe put my probes in there and I can take my probes with me or something like that. But that's the idea behind that too. Toolant, I feel like I've heard of that one. Isn't there another one like Work Pro or something like that? There was some that looked nice. I've seen like either Morgan's Maintenance or Pine Hill Tools, or I follow a few of those tool review people, and there was one, I think it's called Work Pros or something like that. They're all black. Those look pretty decent too. I have so many tools that are rusted out right now. I need to clean them up. What is up, Kirk's Auto? Okay, hold on. Let me move over to this one. Is there a good kit for R290 as far as pulling a vacuum and checking if charge is needed. You're so it depends on what you So for me, for R290, I'm using probes. I leave the service ports on. So whenever I have to open up an R290 system, I'll leave the probes on. I mean, I'll leave the service ports on, check it with probes. I've had no issues with that route. Obviously, you don't want to put hoses on there because of the charge. It's like 2 ounces, 3 ounces on some of the stuff that I've worked on. So I've done it with probes. Uh, and then pulling a vacuum, to be completely honest, I might use my manifold. But you're going to need to make sure you have a core tool or a core depressor on that service port. If you have a core tool on there, like I have some of the field piece ones and Appion ones, then you can pull the core out and you have that valve, right? So then you always have, you can use a manifold, you can use your hoses on there to pull a vacuum, whatever you need to do. And then you obviously valve it off and take everything off and then put on your probes or whatever you need to. So, like I said, core tools, the Appion, only because HVAC Slim the other day was like, thanks for the tip on the Appion core depressors. Those have been really great for anything and everything. I use them for Cormax fittings on the RTUs. I'll use them on small equipment like that where you can kind of depress the, if you want to leave the cores in for anything, you're checking charge, or maybe you want to run a vacuum on it because it's like such a small system. You can run that and then back it out. You're basically valving it off, and then you can move on to from your vacuum to your charging to your, checking. And for the, as far as like charging it, I use the Hvac kit. So Hvac has their Hvac scale. The only bad thing is it's a wired scale, and it's a little awkward to carry. I'm afraid I'm gonna mess up the wire on it, but I haven't yet. So it's a wired scale, and I don't like the case that it comes in, so I just throw it in my hose hauler, which I'll do a video on very soon. That's one of the next ones I have on my list to do. Is I bought some new hoses, and I have that scale that I just got. So for like, charging it, I use the Hvac scale, because if you get the R290 kit with it, it comes with the adapter and everything for you to put your little R290 canister on it, and it has like really small hoses and everything, stubby hoses and all that, and you can charge it that way. I don't remember I think it just has a shut off, like a ball valve on it. So that's my go-to. I'll pull a vacuum with like some 3/8 hoses on those, or a manifold, and charge it up with the Hvac Hvac scale and R290 kit. And then if I absolutely have to check it, I'll use probes. Like after the fact. Hit a like while you're in here. Appreciate everybody for coming on. Oh well, I had just posted, I think that today I need to get back to the comments. What bag do you have your Ambro bottles in? That is the MB2B, which I have a YouTube video on. But it's perfect for the original oxygen cylinder with the MAP gas. It's perfect. If you're using, because I don't know if they're out yet, but the bigger oxygen tanks that they sell now, I'm trying to see if I can use like an MB3B or something else, but it still fits in the MB2B. So, oh, that video in particular, it's the MB2B with the bigger oxygen bottle. So the reason it looks like it's sticking out is because it's not the original bottles that you get like at Johnstone. I don't know if they ever came out with them everywhere, because I know they were supposed to have bigger bottles, but the original bottle actually fits better. So that video, you're gonna see it sticking out because it's not the slim one. But that's an MB2B. I have my torches in there. I have tubing cutters, my sandcloth, striker, reaming tools. I have everything in that bag. And I just throw the little solder sticks in the opening on top, and that's it. Yeah, the I wish I could use the SPMC more, but I started carrying a little bit more stuff. But if that meter pouch works out really well, then it would help a lot, because the only thing on the SPMC or whichever one, like the LD, that side pouch that just has the little tools on it, or maybe even the drill holster, if you don't want to carry the drill like that, you're kind of tied to whatever it came with, right? So one side has a drill holster and the other side has like the pockets, but like you can only put like the smallest tools on those, right? So everything has to go inside, and then you run out of room real quick. So hopefully those Evo meter pouches can open up a little more use for that SPMC and a few others. Later, Freon. Later, Mike. Work on any Linux core units. Not that I can. No, I work on a lot of train RTUs, carrier, and now I'm seeing a lot of Daikin. So those are the main ones that I work on. Every now and then I'll work on Commercial Allied, which is a Linux, right? Yeah, which is a Linux brand, but that's about it. What is up from Instagram? Appreciate it. What do you think of the TP3B and 4B with the Klein belt? I'm not aware of the Klein belt. I don't know. I never really got into those. I tried them for a while, and then I gave one to my dad. I don't remember which one it was. Might have been the 4B, but I don't know. It's not a bag that I use quite a bit. I ended up using the MPMX, the MP2X, those kinds of bags. Because when I usually wear something on my belt, it's when I'm on a ladder, kind of fixing like some wiring, running thermostat wire, maybe working on a thermostat itself. So that's kind of where I use those kinds of like belt pouches, but I'm not aware of the Klein belt. Camera. All right, let me get to these comments. Camera here, $2,000 camera. So this is a Lumix uh, Panasonic camera. But out in the field, I'm using the Ray-Ban Metas. I'm using my phone and a DJI Pocket 3. DJI just came out with some really good ones. The one that I would like to get is the Insta360 Luna, I believe. It's like a gimbal camera. It gives you this kind of quality without spending a whole bunch, or half the price at least. But I think I'm going towards Insta360. Those are the kinds of cameras that I'm more into now. I was a big DJI Action. I had an Action 5, Action 4. So those are the cameras that I had. But yeah, I still use my phone for a lot of stuff, and it's the easiest thing. And the next easiest thing is, well, actually the easiest thing is the Ray-Bans, but the picture quality is like so. It's I care about the quality. I want good quality, but sometimes you just need to capture a video, so like the content is always king. So if you guys, so like there's sometimes when I'm brazing or catching something and I catch it on my Ray-Ban Metas, I never would have been able to get that trying to get out a phone and trying to prop it up somewhere, or I'm on a ladder, there's nowhere to put it. So I don't know. Whatever is easiest for you. The Insta360, like the Ultra, you can clip to your hat. The little action cameras from DJI or Insta360, you can clip to your hat. So those are always cool too. Let's see. I need to get me an Ambro set. I carry my Oxy set in my bag and it's heavy. Yeah, I see a lot of the new guys with that MB4B, and I had that one, that MB4B, as a maintenance bag, and it's not comfortable. So I don't know what bag you have it in, but yeah, it's heavy. That set is always heavy, and people always ask me, why do you use the Ambro? Why do you like it so much? Dude, like, do you not realize how heavy those torches are? And we're trying to put them in something, because I had mine in a Klein rolling backpack because I wanted to just wheel it in, do my brazing. If I did go on a roof, I'm just gonna rope it up and deal with it. So I try to make it easier that way by putting it on wheels, but you're making it heavier. You're trying to make it easier, right? Like for me, putting it in the Klein backpack, or any of the guys that are putting it like in a Vito backpack, you're trying to make it easier, but you know that bag weighs more than the caddy that you get, right? The caddy doesn't weigh anything. It's those damn tanks. So the main thing you would need to do is go to the only real um the only real solution for that is Ambro at the moment, because I've heard of other ones, heard bad things, and I think somebody had asked um if I prefer the Ambro over regular torches. I think I'm like 80 to 90% there. Every now and then, yeah, I would love to have the full set, because you can have a rosebud, you can have the Captain Hook, you can have way more heat if you're doing anything over. For me personally, I think you can do anything from a quarter, because I do small refrigeration, anything from a quarter to 7/8. After that is when you start to think I should just bring out my regular Oxy set, right? So if you do any of that, it is perfect. And that's all I do. I don't do a lot of 7/8. I do a lot of quarter, 3/8, half inch, 5/8. So it is perfect for that stuff. And it gets hot enough. I think somebody was like, I don't know if they were joking or not. They're like, be a man, get your Oxy set. And I forgot what else he said. Like, get the little hand tube expander, the old school one. And I was like, yeah, I want to save my back and hands, so I'm gonna get the Ambro. I need to get on your level with long form content. Top tier. Appreciate that, man. What is up, Top Gun? Oh, the Milwaukee bag. Gen 1 rocked forever. Um, Actually, the reason I wanted to do a backpack in particular was 5 minute delay. So that guy, he's on Instagram. I don't think he ever made the switch over to YouTube, but I saw him using a backpack, but it was a Klein backpack to take up torches. I was like, oh, that's cool. Then I saw Klein came out with a rolling backpack, and I was like, perfect. So I had that for a while. Um, it's even just roping all that stuff up is cumbersome. Like it takes a while. It takes a lot of strength. You got to be careful, especially on a sketchy roof or on the edge of a roof. You got to be careful. but there's no other way to get stuff up there. I mean, people don't understand. I get comments all the time about OSHA or whatever, and it's like, dude, how else do you want me to do this work? I always thought the MB4B torch setup was ridiculous, not gonna lie. It's just not a comfortable backpack to begin with. So, and you can't use any of the other ones that Vito does because the all of their backpacks have a middle panel, right? Because you can open it from both sides. So none of them are gonna work. That's why people are using the MB4B. But yeah, if I had to go back to oxyacetylene, I would not be using personally the MB4B. So I really like the Klein rolling tool backpack. That's the only one that I think works or makes the most sense. But I don't know if you guys were doing, if you guys, oh my God, I don't know if it's because it's like blowing up. I've had the worst comments on the cheater cord video I did. So I don't know. I need to be careful with that stuff. Um, so if you guys were looking, if somebody made a torch, like for oxyacetylene, if somebody was making a torch bag, a torch case, a something, what would you want it to be? Like, would you want it on wheels? Would you want it as a backpack? Do you want it to carry more? Because a lot of times when I used to like modify my torch caddy, and when I did the Klein backpack, it's because I wanted to add like my bubbles for leak searches, like to check my joints. I wanted to add the like the actual rags that I use and my heat blocking putty. And I want to have my tubing cutters, my strikers, maybe some couplings or some service ports. That's why I did all those different setups. So if I'm gonna do that, then I want a bag that can store all that stuff and like sandpaper, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know, because I've been trying to come up with a solution. I've actually been trying to come up with a solution for years, which is why you saw me modify a torch caddy, and then a few years ago I did the Klein backpack, and I want to put it to paper now and see what we can come up with. The tanks, the regular tanks that you can get like at your supply house, from Ambro, to me, because I'm doing a lot of like, hey, we're putting in like a change out and we're doing 4 braze joints, maybe 6, or I'm doing a patch repair where I'm doing 1 or 2. For me, it'll last around 8 jobs comfortably, right? So I can run it for a couple weeks and then change it out, and then run it for a couple weeks and change it out if I'm doing that much brazing. If I'm not really brazing, then obviously it'll last a lot longer, which like right now they're lasting me quite a bit. But comfortably, I think right around 8 jobs. I used the Ambro to change out a Carroll valve today. Perfect for tight spots. Yes, so what did I do recently? I was going to use a different torch, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Just get the damn Ambro, because I was going to burn up like everything. And it was like I had this much space to do like a filter dryer, and the Ambro came in clutch. Yeah, use a cheater cord to power your phone. Smallest bag that can fit the SC680. I've had it. Oh, what was the bag that I had? I know it fits in like the TP double XL. I had that for a while. Uh, Jeez, there was a bag that I had. I'm pretty, yeah, it fits like in the MB3 bags as well. It might have been on the in the SPLD. No, it might have been the SPMC. I had the 680 for a long time, and it would bulge a little bit, but it fits in a lot of those style bags like the SPLD MC. The TP double XL works fine. And if you want to get any of the meter bags, it fits in the MB3 and that kind of size bag as well. Oh, I haven't looked into them, but I think I've seen them. I don't know. Interesting interesting tool for an interesting scenario. Yeah, I think I was already using the MB3 when I had gotten the 680, but they're the same. They should fit in both. Your suppliers don't have it. I can find it at Insco and Johnstone here, and I think a few others. That's weird. I bought the CTLC as my daily carry and walk around with it on a shoulder strap. It's my little purse catch all with the essentials. I'm still waiting on mine. I think it was like back ordered or something. All right, let me see if I missed any comments real quick. When we were talking about leak detectors, the field piece infrared worked good. I would probably get the newer one that does the R290 and A2L, but it there was a day where it didn't want to work, or 2 days. So that was the only issue I had with the field piece infrared leak detector, which yeah, Bloop is talking about here. Yeah, unless I'm pulling a vacuum on a really long line set, I'm pulling through the S-mans with shaders out. Yeah, it that's how it goes sometimes. Oh, I think this is a comment that he was referring to. I hadn't seen it yet. Yeah, the MB2B. What is up, Ben? Jeez. Yeah, business is not being a business owner is not cut up like people think. Our Johnstone won't carry, but Dennis Supply does. I'm the only person in our town using Ambro. I had thought that too, because they had kits there forever, and like I never saw them. They were like collecting dust, but I think people finally started using them because they started not having them in stock, and I was asking like what's going on, and they're like, oh, we're gonna get some more, and just they ran out. So I'm seeing it more now. Our guys use them. They're they're okay to buy the tanks. They get them all the time, so they use the Ambro. It's not just me. Our guys use it too. I've always mentioned it. Like I try to get my guys the same tools that I got. So they got all the Hillmore tube expanders, tube benders, the Ambro controls, torches. They got a lot of Milwaukee stuff if they need storage for their vans and all that. Uh, Having issues with the Navac gauges, but I gave them all the Navac digital manifolds. So we'll see. I think they're going to move on to Hillmore. But we try to supply them with what they need. Obviously, if they've been here long enough, we invest a little bit more in them. And we obviously provide all the major stuff like the vacuum pumps and recovery machine, all that kind of stuff. Can you make a video on how to start up a walk-in freezer? How much charge do I dump in before turning the condenser on? So, yeah, I've never filmed that in its entirety. I've shown a little bit of like, hey, we're putting this in, this and that, and then I'll cut. If I get a chance to, I will. Basically, you we do change out, so we keep a lot of the line set, and you braise it in, put everything in that you need to, and that's all like physical lifting and drilling and all that, and then brazing. But when you're gonna start it up on a walk-in box, once you have your vacuum, you do your decay and all that, you hook up your refrigerant. You're just gonna let it rip on the high side. So you're gonna be tied into the liquid line. You're gonna let it rip. You're gonna fill up that receiver, and you're gonna typically, unless you're dealing with like a large system, you're gonna be able to get most of your charge in like that. And we you're weighing it in as you do that, and let's say you need 8 pounds, 10 pounds, you're going to be able to get like 6 or more of it in there. So you're just going to let it rip. I tell the guys, dump it in on the high side. Whenever it starts slowing down, close it, turn it on. You may or may not have to um, twist on low pressure switches. So most of the time they have that mechanical one that's like a dual, or if they have a single mechanical one and they have those peanut ones. So like for us, like when we're dumping in the charge, you're getting it in, and you're going to turn it on. It's going to open the solenoid and it should fill in and do its thing. Every now and then you got to bypass or lower the pressure on your low pressure just to get it to turn on. You can also bump the contactor just to get the rest of it in through the low side, and you're going to meter it in. You're going to flash it in basically. So you're just going to open and close, open and close. Yeah. And then you're going to get on refrigeration, you don't have a weight to go by, because like on RTUs, you have like a specific weight. I just know it, for what I see, it typically takes 8 or so pounds from doing so many. But you're going to dump in majority of the charge, or you can do half the charge. So if it's a relatively small system, you're going to dump in 3 pounds, 4 pounds, and then turn it on, meter it in. You might have to bypass a low pressure switch or bump the contactor. And then you're going to look for a clear sight glass. But after it's been running for a while and you have that temperature in that like 40-ish range, like 45 or whatever, when you're close enough, because you might get some bubbles. You might get some bubbles if you're trying to fill it up when it's like a hot box, right? Um, so yeah, so reefer mechanic, clear the sight glass. So I always tell them the way you know that it's charged is if your sight glass is clear. If you want to go a step further, once you're done, you pump it down, you check the receiver level, and you can go from 60 to 80% of your receiver, 70 to 80. But uh, typically that's how we do it. I mean, you're not going to know exactly. It's going to be different for every system, but like I said, most of mine are the same. So I already tell them you're looking around 8 pounds for a like small walk-in box on a restaurant. If it's a really big building, and you're going to need a lot more. And I've told them, because we did one for a hotel, and they were freaking out because they had already put 8, 9 pounds in it, and it kept pumping down. It's going to keep tripping because you don't have enough refrigerant or pressure to bypass or to get across the TXV, right? So in that instance, I was trying to tell them that's a huge condenser because it was way bigger than what we're used to. It is a huge condenser. It is a massive receiver. Keep putting it in. And we had to bypass the pressure switch to make it run so that it could take. The only reason I'm telling you to bypass or push in the contactor is because you want the compressor to pull in your refrigerant. It's not that it's going to go into a vacuum because your solenoid is open. So as long as your thermostat's calling and everything's working inside, that solenoid is going to be open. Now, if your temp control's not set right, if it's if it's trying to pump down, the solenoid's closed. On coolers and freezers, if everything's working inside, that solenoid should be open. So you pushing the contactor in is just pulling in the refrigerant so you can get the system going and charge it. Um, yeah, it just depends on the inside, the temp control and the solenoid. I was always told after the decay test to weigh in the receiver capacity and then turn it on and let the coil get cold enough for the fans to turn on and then charge per sight glass. Yes, so that's what I was trying to say is you can weigh it in however you do it. Like I said, the safest way is to put in a little bit and then do the rest of it through the suction. Like I said, I already know how much more or less they need to put in to get it to work. So I typically tell them try to put in 6 to 8 pounds first. Um, but yes, you need to let it get cold before you worry about the sight glass. So that's the main thing. Is like if it's warm, if it's hot, if it's 70, 60, you're not clearing the sight glass. You're waiting for it to cool down and then you're going to start clearing the sight glass. I always forget because I have a lot of questions from people that are going from residential AC to refrigeration or they want to learn. And these are the little things that I'm trying to, make them aware of. Like, hey, there's a solenoid. Hey, there's a receiver. Pressures are very different. Um, sometimes you need to bypass pressure controls for like the low pressure controls for different things to get it charged. So there's a lot of little things that are different, but it's the same cycle. So the only way you can know, which is a hassle, which is why I don't do it all the time, unless I want to verify, you're going to need to pump the system down. So you're going to need to do a pump down. Yeah, you're going to need to do a pump down. You have these valves like your residential split system, right? Your two valves. Do a pump down. Well, you have your valves there, but you have a king valve. So I'm trying to compare it to an AC, but you have a king valve on the receiver so that you're reading or have everything in the receiver. So you're doing a pump down, but you close your king valve, which is the outlet of the receiver. You're going to let it run. You're going to pump it down. You're going to push the contactor to get it all in there. And once you have the pump down, everything's in the receiver. I like to close off the suction too. You're going to trap it there. You're going to warm it up in one fashion, in one way or another. I've put a torch to it. There's different ways to do it. You want to warm it up a little bit, and then you can sometimes feel it with the back of your hand where the temperature difference, or you can check it with a thermal imager and you actually see like the line, and then you mark it. And like I said, you want to make sure that it's like 70, 80%. You need to leave room for expansion, and that's about it. So yeah, it's a pump down. That's when you're using that king valve on refrigeration, trapping it in the receiver. You need to warm it up so that the refrigerant you can actually see the refrigerant level through temperature. Use the back of your hand or a thermal imager. I did 1 or 2 videos on it a long time ago. If I find them, I'll try to repost them. Doing that exact method. I think just because I was double checking that they were having a lot of issues on it, and I wanted to make sure that it was correct. Yeah, import. Let's see. Evap superheat is important as well. Set within 10. So earlier I mentioned freezers and the call that I had. Those are freezers because there's a lot of checks you can do on refrigeration equipment. Just know where you're checking and what you're checking. So there is a um, what do you call it? Like a there's a temp difference from your evap coil to your condition space to know what you're getting out of it. There is superheat. We don't typically use subcool, but superheat, if you're working on a cooler, it is 8 to 12. So you want to be right in the 10 range. 8 to 12 at your evaporator. So you're checking the service port in the evaporator and the line going out. You should have 8 to 12 there. If it's a freezer, you're looking for 6 to 8 because it's going to be colder. And I've also done it at the compressor, but you're going to see anywhere up to 20 at the compressor. So it depends on where you check it to. And as long as you understand, because I try to tell my guys like these little things, like, you know, exactly what I just said right now, like look for that. I mean, once you get a little more into it, you'll kind of understand what it's doing and what it shouldn't be doing and why it's like that and your saturation temperatures, all that kind of stuff. That'll all come a little bit later, but for now, hey, freezer, if you're checking inside, 6 to 8. If it's a cooler, 8 to 12. If you're checking outside, it's going to be a little bit warmer. You're going to see up to 20 degrees superheat. So just know where you're checking. Not going to lie, if a pressure control is acting funny, just replace it with a screw on. Cut in 20, cut out 5, call it a day. Yeah. So I use some that are cut out 10. And I think somebody was telling me something, but I'm like, we don't have ultra cold climates. We don't have ultra cold. And then if it ever gets to that point, we typically have a fan cycle control, right? So that's another thing that you see on refrigeration that you don't see with AC is a fan cycle control to help with pressures. But yeah, I replace them with the little screw-on type, the peanut style. Those are preset. They almost always work. I've never had an issue with them. Now they do fail, but so do the mechanical ones. People like the mechanical ones because you're able to actually set a cut in and cut out with a screwdriver. And I know a lot of guys like them because you can, if they fail, you can try to calibrate them. But I've had a lot that I calibrate further. I'm like, this is way out of range. I'd rather just replace it. Oh yeah, headmasters. Yeah, thermal imagers are great for all that stuff. Thermal imager is good enough to show how full the receiver is. I need to buy that so I can keep these receivers full in case of a leak. So whenever I do check the receiver like that, yeah, you're gonna mark it, date it, and then if you ever have an issue, because we've had a lot of people here that charge a walk-in box in the summer, and then in the winter we find out that it's low on charge and I can't find a leak. I'm like, well, I don't think they put in the full charge, right? So we verify with checking the receiver, and then we'll mark it and we'll be like, okay, we'll check it again, you know, in the future if we have another issue. That way we know if it actually leaked out. What is up, Zay? Can you make a video on how to adjust superheat on a cooler and freezer? It confuses me. I just adjust it until the box is good to temp. Yeah, and again, that's something I've never, I think, recorded. That one, I wish I had recorded the one that I went behind another company. He put in the TXV. Superheat was way off. And the box never got under 20 degrees and it was a freezer. All I did was adjust the TXV to my 6 to 8, and that thing dropped to like under 10. So it's very important that you know these things. And now it's a little different because you have electronic expansion valves. So the only time I've seen an issue with these, or I've had two issues with these. One is your uh, transducer. Basically, it's the one that reads your pressure. So those little screw-ons, there's an electronic one that sends a signal to the board to tell it, hey, you have this much pressure at all times, right? Um, so I had a transducer bed out of the box on a new walk-in, and that was messing up my superheat because it was saying I had perfect superheat, but I actually checked it and it was like no superheat. Like I had zero. So that's the only issue I had with electronics when they don't read. So the thing that I learned on that one was to, when I do a startup, check superheat with my equipment, go into the board and make sure that it matches before I say that we're good. And then as far as like well, the other issue I've had is where people mess with the settings or don't know what to set. So I went to another one where they put the superheat at somebody set, went in there and messed with it because they come preset. As long as you tell it it's a cooler, it's a freezer, and you're using whatever refrigerant, it'll do everything for you. Somebody went in there and changed the superheat to 20. I went out there. I didn't know what the hell was going on with it. I was like, okay, let's go through our program. I was like, okay, that's not the right superheat. So let's change it to 10. And it started working. So, um, yeah, that one with the bad transducer was a Russell Econet, which I believe is Beacon. So that's the issue I had with that one. They also have issues with sensors. So there's been a few things that can mess up where you think everything's, good. So I like to verify now with my own stuff or my own probes and all that. And like I said, the other one was just somebody, I guess, thought it was supposed to be 20. Let's see, walk-in box. I did an inspection recently on a roof of a gas station. I want to share with y'all walk-in box 10-ton AC. We used to do gas stations, Stripes, 7-Elevens, and what was like Exxon's, but it was crazy. And somebody that I talked to that was looking for help sent me pictures of one that he did. Oh my god, that thing had like 8 pressure controls that they kept adding to it. All of them were still hooked up. Had a suction line dryer. It had like so many weird things that I've never seen on that. And they had like several service ports soldered on throughout the system. Oh, the Sunoco ones. I've never been on the newer ones. Uh the only recent ones I had were Stripes, but we turned it down because it was a lot of late night and weekend calls. So I guess we were like the overtime company they were using. Because at the time, I don't think we were charging overtime. How would you rate field piece, digital gauges, and yellow jacket digital gauges? Hands down, it's hard to beat field piece. I'm not going to lie. They are the most compact and they work with like their scales. Obviously, they're like wireless clamps. It works with their micron gauges. Like there's different, you can buy a field piece and use it in many different ways. And I think it's probably the most solid of the bunch because I've tried JB, they break. I bought Hvac, they break. Um, I just got my CPS Black Max digital set, which is a newer one. So we'll see how that does. I think that one's promising. But the yellow jackets, I've never used them. they seem a little bit bulky, but I do like that it has magnets. I wish more would do that because like the hooks are always hard to place in certain situations. I like the magnet idea from the yellow jackets, but I've never used them. I just easy recommendation is field piece. What really confuses me is when I work on a system with no sight glass and I'm debating whether or not it needs charge. And you would go by superheat. Uh, make sure everything's good. Check your superheat and your line going. You check your superheat at your evaporator and you check it at your compressor. Make sure you have a sweating line going back. But pressures and saturation temperatures will tell you a lot on a sealed system without a sight glass. Um, and then you're going to use like whatever your ambient is. I still use that for like everything that I work on. Whatever your ambient is, you're going to go like, let's say it's like 80 degrees in that kitchen, like what I like the stuff that I work on, or 80 degrees outside. Your condenser, when you hook up your gauges, typically should be 20 degrees over that or 25 degrees over that. So like if you have 100 psi, I mean 100 saturation temperature on your high side, 105, you're within range. If it's like 80 degrees outside and your high side says it's 120 degrees or 130 degrees, you are either overcharged or extremely dirty on your condenser. And if you're under, then you're undercharged. So hook like low and high side and saturation temperatures and checking superheat, maybe not only in one but two locations, your evaporator and your compressor, that can tell you quite a bit. Uh Dude, that's all I used to see. Everything cut. Pressure control. Um Oh, I always forget about the testos. I've never used them, but I've heard good things. But yes, I used to work at a lot of places, which is what I said earlier. I didn't I couldn't be picky, and man, AC's everything bypassed to where I get there and things are going off on thermal overload all the time, and motors are out and compressors are going out, and it's like all the safeties were bypassed. You know, if you ever bypass one to test it, you need to put it back or go get that part and put it back. Oh yeah, I was told on the new ones that you can graph it even if you leave. Like it'll do it in the manifold, which is great when you're doing like a pressure test and all that kind of stuff. So I always forget about Testo to be honest, but that one I always hear good things on their manifold and their app. I use a Hick Micro. I have a Hick Micro that looks like a smartphone, and I've had the bigger styles too. All of our guys have either Hick Micro or I forget the other brand that we have. The gun style one. So we have those, and I carry a really small one in my tool bag. Uh, but it requires your phone. Like you have to hook it up to your phone. I think Klein makes them now too. But they're not cheap either. So like you're still paying almost the same price for that little mini one. But for our guys, I like to just give them like a standalone, and we usually go with Hake Micro or I can't remember. I can't remember the other brand. There's another brand that I've done on the channel, and those work fine, and they're cheap. HSF Tools, I believe. It should be in my tool link. So if you guys want to go check out the tool link, I know I have thermal imagers in there. I've used the Klein ones, like the little square ones. They're super easy to carry in your bag, but they are very slow and they calibrate often. So that's the only reason I don't like the Klein ones. But I mean, they're very useful. They're very helpful. How would you recommend? I'll make sure to check it out, Zay. Oh, restaurant repairs, great channel. Yeah. How do you recommend getting a contact with one of those chain stores? There's different ways. Sometimes now they all find us, so that's kind of how we do things now. Getting into, let me see, some of these you get into by being on like a vendor list. So you would still need to go around or talk to people that have worked in some of these restaurants or gas stations and see what they're on, because like I have a customer that uses like Zenput, so we have to have Zenput. I have another customer that uses Verisi or VX or something like that, so we are a vendor on that. Another one is Powerhouse, I believe. That's a new one that I'm on. So I got on there to do Wingstop. They found somebody else, which I had already told them, like, by the time I do the paperwork, you're going to find somebody else. So I was kind of bummed out, but then the mall called that they found us on that vendor list. So third parties and vendors like that. And we have another one, some facility maintenance. I forgot what it's called, that I actually just remembered I need to upload our W-9 right now. Uh, it's a lot of third parties and vendor lists. So that's how we get into some of these. And it's a lot of networking, a lot of knowing people at parts houses. And uh, yeah, it's hard to get in just by being out there. You do have to go and like network, go to a bunch of places. If you go to a restaurant or a place like that, like a gas station or anything, just ask them how they call in their work and stuff like that, and see if they can give you any info. Because I've had some that will tell us, hey, heads up, get on this vendor portal or whatever they're called, and then we can call you, because it has to go through the third party. Oh, I think I've had Flare too, but for recommendations, I think they're just pricey. From what I remember, I could be wrong. Oh, I use it all the time for defrost heaters, like drain heaters, freezer defrost heaters, stuff like that. Because only if they're working you can tell, right? But if they're not working, you want to double check. I use it a lot for that too. All right, guys, I've been here. You guys have kept me on here for 2 hours. I was gonna keep it short, but I appreciate everybody and anybody that came out to chat. Hope you guys are gonna have a good work week. We have a lot planned this week, so I will get into something I wanted to do on the channel was do more refrigeration, like commercial refrigeration explanation. So like a lot of those ideas or questions you guys had today in particular are good to turn into videos. At some point, I want to get back into that, because I used to do some of that stuff, like explaining defrost timers and explaining defrost terminations and all that kind of stuff that we see that you don't see on AC side. So I do want to get back into that and do more of that stuff. And then obviously the reviews and all that. So I'll be working on that. So hopefully you guys had a good night. Appreciate everybody that came out, and I will see you guys possibly next week. And then don't forget Thursday nights with the HVAC nights. Hope to see you guys there. And where's the outro? There it is. See you guys.